Okay, I think we are live streaming on the Webster Town website. This is the Thursday, March 14th Town Board Workshop, and tonight we really only have one topic of discussion formally on the agenda, and that is to discuss the reopening of the 7 Town of Webster facilities, both from a standpoint of bringing employees back and also as to the public entering those facilities, which they are somewhat mutually exclusive events. I will say this, I consider this a who's on first, what's on second issue, because every facility is got to be handled differently. Because some of them, we as a town board, or we really don't make the decision on when they open. The courts open based on when their higher power says so. The rec center and the gym will open based on, I think, phase 4 of the governor's plan. So we'll get into all of that. With that being said, I guess I drew the short straw, and I'm in the room. The rest of the board is in the comforts, hopefully, of their own homes, and are going to be interjecting questions and comments on this by phone. And as always, the public is more than welcome to call in with their comments and questions to 585-872-7011. I promised the board I'd do a very short preamble. I think I went past my 1 minute by far. But the first thing I'd like to just make sure that we're all aligned with is that regardless of the facility, we are going to try to structure the facility first and foremost for the safety of the Town of Webster employees. And the compass that I'd like to think we'll use is we're going to set up the facilities to be safe. I don't have any intention of trying to have 230 Webster employees all feel safe, because if there's one thing that we've learned from COVID-19 is that people's feelings run the gamut. So I think this board and the town and the department heads need to use some common sense and some best practices that have been already put out there as to how the facilities will be structured. Plexiglass barriers, lines on the ground to promote social distancing, masking when appropriate, all of that. And as I hand it off globally from a standpoint of all these facilities, to start having some of the board members comment, ask questions, the Town of Webster might run into an issue in the next week or so as we start to open these facilities to employees coming back, in that we did such a good job 2 months ago getting people out to their homes to work that may end up hampering us getting those same people back into the office to work. And we'll have to maybe make less of a global decision for the whole town on that, and more granular to the facility or to the department, that if the person can do their job and be productive from their home right now, and they're not really dealing with the public as we open it back up to the public, I think we may have to, allow that to happen. Safety is first and foremost. Productivity, we've always said, is paramount, and balancing those as when we were working from home, and now we're about to venture into the new era of opening up. So from that global standpoint, I'm going to ask Patty Cataldi, our deputy supervisor, do you have any comments, questions on that?
I think it would be really wise, and there was some communication that went out quite late today. I do like the plan of bringing back some of the employees into town hall so that we can get set up and everybody can get comfortable with a new surrounding, if you will, whether it be the plexiglass or the spacing and all of that, who's going to work where and keeping people distant appropriately from each other. I also think it's important to recognize and respect the need for some of our employees who have been able to work from home, who might have specific needs where they need to continue to work from home because of they might be at home with elderly parents. They might have school children at home, and of course school is not going back into session, so now child care becomes an issue. If those employees are able to continue to work from home, I think that we should try to allow for that and ease back into this situation. Obviously, if we can cut down on the amount of employees we have coming back all at the same time, I think we're going to be much better off.
Yeah. And Patty, I will say this before we move on to the other board members. You did a nice job of segueing from the global of all 7 facilities to talking about town hall, which I'd like town hall to be the first facility that we do talk about, so you already somewhat did, because really 7 of our 14 departments at town operate out of town hall, and so much of the public need for services, usually heretofore before COVID, came from going into town hall. So that will be the first facility we talk about on tonight, and you somewhat already did broach it with what you saw earlier prepping for this. So, Barry, are you there?
I am now.
All righty.
I don't have a lot to add to that. I can't think of anything to add to that, right? I think Eddie pretty much hit the nail on the head when it comes to all that. And I tried to get through the things that we sent out late today, and I breezed through them, and it just, the stuff that came from Carl was,
Yeah.
I think we've got to continue to promote the safety for the employees. I think there's going to be some employees that aren't going to want to come back yet.
Yeah.
How we handle that, I'm not quite sure. But for those that are, you're planning on bringing back in on, it would be Monday, to gradually get them creeped in and get them comfortable and get all the barriers put up and this and that. This is a hard topic for me because I'm really having mixed emotions on all this. So I'm going to kind of listen and go along with the flow here.
Well, and before we move on, I'd be remiss if I didn't say, since the first 2 board members are Patty and Barry, that Patty worked the mass distribution on Saturday in a blizzard conditions, and Barry worked it yesterday and was sunbathing during the event. So just thought that everybody should know that. Well, you're going to have to make your own judgment on that.
That might be because Barry looked at the weather report.
There you go, Barry. Plan to fail is a failed plan.
That's it. All right. Well, John, you're last alphabetically. So, Bill, any comments, questions on this so far?
Just a few things. I haven't had a chance to look at any of Carla's information. I did look at some information that you sent us, and I'm not. I don't agree with us starting Monday. I just think it's way too early for us to get employees in there and get things ready and cleaned and go over everything by Monday. That's just. I don't think we have the time frame. Looks too quick to me. Maybe the following week would make more sense. We'd have more time to set things up. That's one thing. And the other thing, I did speak with Donna today. They are going to do virtual hearings, so they're all set with that, so they're not gonna be bringing people in to town hall to do those meetings. That's all gonna be handled virtually, and it's too late in the game for them to change and go back to having them come in, so they're gonna continue with that program and do hearings virtually for grievance day. The other thing is with us extending the roll, we picked up a few $1 million in revenue, a few $1 million in tax base because of it. She's had time to get more things into the roll. But she needs that time to get herself ready for grievance day, and I just think it's too soon to be bringing people in on the 18th.
Okay, and Bill, you know what? Like I said, from a global standpoint, we'll take that under consideration as we get into each of the facilities. As you know, some of the facilities already have people back. So you might be isolating this down to town hall in what you just described, because you did bring in the concept of the assessment office, which interestingly enough, the assessment office is an essential department that we determined, and that the majority of their staff is already working out of town hall. But as long as you did broach or branch off into grievance day and all that, thank you for, because I was going to find out tomorrow what Donna's decision was as the assessor for live grievance day in mid-June, or do it remotely. I appreciate it's her decision, because really, as the assessor, you are not dictated things by the board and the town supervisor to an extent. I will say that I just hope she knows what she's in for. I did tell her, and I, just being for transparency, I think that it would be a lot easier to do it live. It'll be mid-June. We'll be into phase 3 by then, possibly. But we don't know what. Maybe we'll be back to being hermits by mid-June because the numbers spike. But, Donna has told me that grievance day is tough enough as it is. It's not one day. It can go on for 5 days. And if there's anything that we've learned during COVID-19 is that doing things remotely brings about a whole different set of complications. So I respect the decision, but I just hang on to how that process is going to go. But thank you, Bill. Mr. Cahill.
Mr. Flaherty. How are you?
I'm safe. Are you?
Have been since the initiation. I almost want to leave it there, but with respect to the opening up, I think it should be based upon the board and information coming in. I think we have the plan that we are about to initiate is positive. And I guess I'll leave it at that.
Yeah. Well,
Can I circle back and can I add something?
yes, because Patty, now we're gonna, if you don't mind, we'll get granular and let's talk about the upstairs at Town Hall that operates 7 of our departments, including the assessment department that Bill previously mentioned.
I will say one thing, though, and I apologize, Patty, for interrupting. The one thing that we're doing in our company is that, Tom, I sent you an email on this earlier, I think earlier this week or maybe late last week, is with respect to temperature testing.
Yes.
We're tested every day on the way in, right? Paul Davis Restoration. We work in multiple houses, and we use PPE, not just your cloth mask, which is not proper PPE, believe me. So when we come in every day, there's a laser temperature that can be taken, and our temperature is taken every day. So I just want to throw that out there, that's an option to consider for when we open up for our employees. Problem is that we've run into with these infrared temperature sensors is they're not really accurate. Accurate from the point that they're usually 2 degrees below what you actually are. We have found anyways. That's the experience that we've had. So I just want to throw that out there. But it is an option that's available that we may consider.
Yeah, and certainly when we talk about structuring a facility, and as long as we're on town hall, and Patty, I'm going to hand it over to you, that, you know, if we decide that we're going to start taking the temperature of our employees as they enter a facility, then we will need to get the thermometers, the appropriate ones, to do so. But I would assume that we also then, when we open it to the public, even if by appointment only, we would be taking the temperature of the person, the public coming in the door. So
I would agree.
You know, Patty, you were going to add something?
I just wanted, before we kick off the discussion of each department, each building and all of that, I think it's important, you certainly had discussions with some of the department heads on how they envision bringing back their department, and I think that's great. I just hope that the department heads, once we start bringing people back, will also look to the employees for their input as
Yes.
to how they feel they can help, they can do their job and provide safety to themselves, their fellow coworkers, and the public.
Yeah.
Because we all have to feel like we're part of the solution here. No one wants to, think they've got a great idea and nobody's listening to them. So I think it's important for everybody to be part of the solution.
I'm sure they have.
And Patty, and
As we move forward and get back into some semblance of normal.
here, it's interesting. You can almost break this up into structure of a facility to be safe. That's category one. Then category two, in no particular, the bringing back of employees and the 230 different personalities and, individual situations as to wanting to come back to work versus not coming back to work for a myriad of reasons. And then the third is obviously the public. And when we start doing services for the public at those facilities. When Bill had said earlier, and Bill, I'm not saying your opinion is wrong by any stretch. It might be right that we're coming back on the 18th is too soon. But I want to make sure you understand something on this. When I sat down with the department heads on Friday the 8th in Town Hall, and I said, look, there's 7 of you here, and you all operate out of Town Hall. Some of you are one-person departments that operate in an office way in the back of Town Hall that doesn't even see the public come in, and you're in your own office. So your handling of your department or your handling of coming back to work will be seen very differently than the department head who has 12 employees that they potentially have to bring back, and that they also, that 12-employee department interacts with the public every single day. So when I had that meeting with them on the 8th, one of the things that spawned off of it was that the department heads who had multiple employees reported that some of their employees are itching to come back to work. They want to come back to work. They want to get out of their house. They want to come back into work. And to your point, Patty, I think they also, in that first week, as we tweak things and whatever, would be part of the solution of not only setting up certain things, but also having ideas and whatever. Now, some of the employees on the other end of the spectrum in that department they do not want to come back to work. So, Bill, to your point, whether we have them come back on the 18th or we have them come back on the 25th, we are going to have to address those individual motivations of wanting to come back to work or not. And this is a totally unique situation. We've never, as an employer, at least in my years of being an employer, and I'm sure in the years of Webster Town being an employer, said, well, let's hear what the employee's individual situation is and determine if they can stay home and, whatever. That's crazy if you think about it. If somebody told me that 3 months ago, I'd say, what? The inmates are running the asylum. But it's very not crazy when we sit here on May 14th. In fact, it's probably good business and smart to assess that. So that's one of the reasons I wanted to move employees into town hall as early as the 18th and start vetting their comfort level of coming in. And the ones that aren't comfortable, if we say, okay, well, you can do your job still out of the house and public isn't coming in tentatively until Tuesday the 26th, so you keep working. But when is it the point when the public comes in and we're like, well, we really need your position now to come back in and to the office? And while COVID-19 is still going on, phase 1, 2, 3, 4, I just don't know how much leverage we have in making a person come back, and will we have to at that point say, look, you know what, if you don't want to come back to work and now the facility's open and then you can stay home but you're not paid. I don't know. It's so I maybe I was saying that's one of the reasons I want to start getting employees back.
Tom, given that said, I believe that we have at least a week to establish the comfort level on a department head level to contact their employees and put that out there, right?
Yes, and like I said, the town hall. Oh, I'm getting it back. The town hall departments are a totally different animal than, let's say, the sewer plant and their employees.
Exactly.
It's just, and really, the majority of our conversation tonight as a board is about that upstairs of the town hall. Because the other departments, or the other facilities, well, let's put it this way. A governor's executive order was not what guided us on closing down town hall to the public. We closed town hall down to the public. It's really, we can open up town hall to the public. The governor's executive orders made essential and non-essential. So it's going to be on us. We are the higher power, if you want to call it, to open that facility. That's not the case with the library. In a lot of ways, the rec center is phase 4 because it's a gym. So there's things that, there's other powers out there that will dictate in a lot of ways how those other facilities are. Town hall kind of all falls on us. Or I say, on the leadership of the town.
Right. Okay. Okay, never mind.
Come on, John, you were thinking of something.
No, I'm not going to say it. An executive order is an executive order. Okay?
Yeah.
It applies or it doesn't. So how does it apply to the rec center, but it doesn't apply to town hall?
Oh, I did.
Or it doesn't apply to the library?
Well, now we're going to venture off here. The rec center.
I don't want to do this, Tom. I talked to you about this before. I don't want to go there.
Well, I'm just saying the rec center, and Chris Bilo and I need to sit down so that I don't have a lot to report to you today, and Chris was very helpful on Saturday and yesterday's mass distribution event. So we spoke in passing on this, that there are certain things that the rec center's gym, I can assure you, will not open until phase 4, because the phase 4 description, which I think would be getting almost close to July 1st, I think it right now has gyms in it. How are we not going to, we can't have the gym part of the rec center open up when all of their gyms, YMCA, all that, aren't open up because they're not allowed to open up in Finger Lakes till phase 4. Do we all agree on that?
Well, again, back to executive orders. All right, I'm going to stop. I'm just going to stop.
Oh, I wish John was here. I'd love to see his face. So going around on this again, let's to the town hall. Okay.
But yeah, let's focus on that.
The upstairs town hall. An employee does not have to come back on the 18th. I just haven't, flowchart wise, if they're home and not working right now, and they're getting paid because of union, well, that puts us into a precarious position, because if we're saying, okay, employees can come back, but most of the people at town hall, the 7 departments there, Steve Peace in IT and Karen and communications, they're working from home. I don't know too many of those. Or we have, there's essential departments where they're working out of town hall. So it just seems like it would be an easy 5 days, I say easy, to vet out the feelings of the employees while still not losing productivity or crossing that bridge, which will not be fun, which is, okay, you need to come back to work, and if you don't come back to work, it's unprecedented. What do we do? I mean, I'm not saying they get fired, but if people are back to work, and they can't work from home, I don't know. I haven't really thought that one through on how we would handle that. But
I think we're kind of going. I think we're going off on a tangent, which really involves more employment, HR, and all of that. I think what we need to do is, whenever we decide the proper date is, whether it's the 18th or whether, to Bill's point, we delay it a week, whatever it is, the first week has to be very phased in. We don't bring everybody back at the same time. And if someone is doing their job to our satisfaction remotely, I don't know why we would, and they don't have to be dealing with the public. I don't know why we would force that issue within phase 1 or maybe even phase 2. I think if they can continue to work from home and they're being productive, I almost think it should be encouraged so that we control the density in town hall for as long as we can.
Amen. And I'm glad you just said phase 1 and phase 2, because, and this is where it gets confusing, who's on first, what's on second. Just because there's a phase 1 through 4 of the Finger Lakes region, we can have a totally separate phased-in approach to the town's facilities that doesn't really match anything specific to those phases at Finger Lakes. I mean, there's just, but it makes sense what you just said, Patty, that I certainly don't want to open up town hall on a day when it's like, okay, all employees are back, and on that same day we're opening up the doors to the public with, not by appointment only, just opening the doors, just come on in, like a stampede. That's crazy. But coming up with a way to start to introduce some normalcy back in, people getting back to the office, opening up services. I mean, I got to tell you, I am so convinced that by appointment only is such the right answer for so many reasons, for us to control the situation at the door.
I could not agree with you more, and I think we need to be careful of something that John said earlier. I'm not sure we could take the temperature of the public coming in. I think we need to be very careful there.
Yeah, Well, we've got a, we'll leave here, you know, with a lot of questions.
That's illegal.
Was that Bill, Barry, or John that was chiming in? I don't think so. Well, let
I
me
was
take,
not aware that John was proposing to take the temperatures of the public. I thought he was talking about employees.
He mentioned both.
Okay, and they've been doing the employees down at the police department since the beginning.
yeah.
And it's worked out well for them, and so far, knock on wood, they've been healthy.
Yeah, and I don't want to tangent off and move on from upstairs, town hall, 7 departments, but along those lines, Barry, I'm comfortable that Chief Rieger has the downstairs at town hall under control as to how they're, you know, one, what they're doing with their employees, like you just said, with the taking the temperature. And at least in passing yesterday, he wants to bring the public back in by appointment only as soon as next week. Now, I have to talk to him because well, you know, if somebody comes in through the downstairs doors to go to the police, they even if they went upstairs to try to get into the second floor of town hall, that door is closed, so they couldn't get in.
I think, Tom, that for continuity and for less confusion, certainly the court is a whole nother animal because they're guided by different guidelines than we can do. But as far as town hall, I think for continuity, we should be open to the public by appointment only at the same time for any department that's within town hall.
It's probably not a bad idea, and because I was changing my mind on this in the last couple of days, I have not told Chief Rieger about my at least tentative changed plans to not have the public come in until Tuesday the 26th, the day after Memorial Day. So to be fair, you know, if I told him that and said, you know, we'd like to have continuity, I can't imagine Chief would not go along with that.
Well, I think that's reasonable.
Yeah.
And I want to get back to one more thing before I lose the thought. I did look through much of what Carla sent out, and there's 2 different ways to handle screening for the employees, and I think it's something that we're going to have a discussion on later, and possibly Carla would be involved. But there's the one option of screening the employees when they come in, taking a temperature, going through the list of questions, etc. The other is a self-assessment health survey that the employee does every day before they come in.
Yes.
I want to carefully weigh those 2 options. I heard that.
You know, I did too. There has been, and Patty, has it been on the county call or has it been on the supervisor call that people have been pretty high on the latter one, the self-assessment, because it was the county call, because wasn't it Adam Bello who said he's been doing it, you go in, it takes 2 seconds, and you answer 2 questions, right?
I'm not sure I heard that on a county call, and I do know they were taking temperatures at one time early on in this crisis.
Actually,
And I'm not saying one is right. I'm not saying one way is the right way or the wrong way. It deserves some discussion.
sure. No, I do remember. Adam was saying that if you're well and you answer the 2 questions, you know,
That's the dashboard on the county public health website.
yeah. I mean, you're on your honor. I think the question is, you got a fever? No. Do you have a cough? No. You're good. Go to work. If you answer one of them yes, I think you get into a much more intense questioning period for that self-assessment.
Again, that's the dashboard for the general public, not for employees necessarily going into a place of employment.
there's a portal or something, an online self-assessment that, for employees?
No, there's an online assessment for the general public to go into so that the county can monitor who is symptomatic and who's not. And if you check one or two of those critical boxes, you're just going to get another menu that's going to ask you some more questions and then suggest you might go for testing. So it's really more of a way to keep a finger on the pulse of the health of our residents in the county itself.
So what would be, when you say, either we take their temperature or have them do the self-assessment, what is the platform of the self-assessment? Is it?
It's in all that information that Carla sent to us.
Okay, I haven't got it.
There's an actual form in there.
A form, okay.
And then it also talks about all of the repercussions of taking the temperature and screening employees, and the person who's going to do that and the person who does it has to have the proper PPE. And, I'm sure it's a lot different than what it looks like for John's company where someone flashes a thermometer at his forehead. It gets into a whole lot of other things, and then...
well, they're not flashing a port. They're not flashing a...
I didn't say flashing. I said flashing.
Flashing or flashing. They have PPE when they take the temperature, when the employees come through the door. They have
doing that.
The person taking the temperature has the proper PPE on when they're doing that. And what we have found is, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
What we have found is, through the infrared, is that it typically is a degree to 2 degrees below what it normally is.
Yeah, they're not very accurate.
Yeah.
No, I will agree with that, but they're under accurate. They're never over for some reason.
Uh-huh.
We're still working through that.
Yeah.
I think John, was it you I was talking to on the phone today that I had to go to a county facility this afternoon, and as part of the checkpoint getting in, the security guard took my temperature with one of those laser thermometers, and I was 97.1, and I said, boy, am I a cold-hearted son of a gun, huh? But John...
right, and that's the point I was trying to make, is that the infrared are a little lower. So, how do you analyze this, right?
I don't know.
You want people to come in and be safe, but you still have to understand that the general public they want to come in.
Yeah. Well, gang, however we set it up, I can assure you, hopefully we can look at ourselves in the mirror and say we have set up the facility to be safe. We will not get consensus from 230 employees that they feel safe. It's just, there's too many, I can't chase that, the feel safe thing, because I think we've all seen it, in the last couple of months of, just the different spectrums of how people are approaching this. Barry, you were handing out the mask yesterday, and I was about 45 feet behind you, and I moved my mask down to my chin to yell something across the driveway to somebody, and you said the person in the car basically said, hey, that guy over there just pulled his mask down. Is that about accurate, Barry?
Oh, she was livid. Nice example you guys are setting here.
Yeah.
With her mask down while she's telling me this.
Yeah. And I wasn't within 45 feet of people, so, but, that's just,
We're getting off on a tangent here, we've talked we're on 40 minutes now, and we've made no decision as to what we're going to do at the town hall. Let's get back on track.
Well, I'll tell you what, I don't think we're voting on a board resolution on this. I'm inclined, after talking to the department heads at Town Hall, to start moving their employees back into the office if they're comfortable doing it. Some of them are jonesing to get back, some of them aren't. And I want to start doing that as early as Monday, May 18th. Using common sense. If they're not comfortable coming in and they can work from home, that's fine. I want to dovetail to Tuesday the 26th to open to the public. I want to work with Karen from how we promote that on website and Facebook and all the promotions. And as we know in this town, we think we hit about 15 to 20% of the households with our messaging. So that means that 85% of them don't know that we are opening to appointment only. So hopefully the signage we have on the 26th will make the person who comes to town hall who heard it was open see that they have to call for an appointment, and maybe they can call right then and there on their cell and be let in the door. I have some ideas on a sales approach to handle those at each department that does the dealing with the public, where many times the person calling in for an appointment with 2 or 3 simple questions from each department, more than half of them will not need to come in. Their issue is taken care of on the phone. I won't get into the granular aspect of that right now. I think we still, even with being open to the public by appointment only, would like to minimize how many people come into town hall initially. So, like I said, that's how I plan on discussing it with the department heads tomorrow. Understanding that if they say that's too fast, well, that's fine. Remember, 3 or 4 of the department heads are one-person departments, okay? And they're working. And it's the ones that have employees, and I've already talked to them. It's not as many employees as you would think. And I already kind of have an idea of who of their employees is going to be loving to come in on the 18th, and will probably help us set up the place during that week and be part of the solution and setting it up to be safe. So that's all I got to say about that. Can we move on? I mean, the police department, I think we just did talk about. I'll talk to Joe Rieger and see if he's okay with being consistent on dovetailing to Tuesday the 26th for open to the public. Does that sound reasonable to everybody?
Does me. My question is, can you hear me?
You can.
Yeah.
My question is, how many people in the assessing department are working at the town hall now?
All of them except for one.
So everybody in the assessing department is already there.
Correct.
Okay. So I guess I don't understand why, Bill, why are you afraid to open up if they're already all there?
They still need the time to finish the role, and that's what this has been given them. If we have to start going to dealing with the public again, they're not going to be able to get the role completed. I'm just trying to get them a couple more days so that they can get the role completed for this year.
Okay. Is that Donna's request?
We talked today, and she was hoping she could hold off from the public until June.
Until June, Bill?
I thought we already gave her an extension.
That's why she wants to hold off from the public till June. If people start coming in, it pulls them away from doing, tax roll, working on that.
So Bill, I need to interrupt for a minute here, somebody. Bill, if we wouldn't be opening up to the public, and again, it's going to be public by appointment only until May 26th. So as far as the 18th, we're not bringing the public back in. So they can still continue to work if they're working. They don't really have much to do to set up their department because they've already been working like that. So even the week of the 26th, it's going to be by appointment only.
I'm just forwarding what I was asked, that's all.
Okay?
You wanna bring him in on 26 by appointment? You know, it's all your call, it's the majority decision.
Well,
I'm just giving the particulars.
yeah, I think it's very important to understand that.
I thought Donna proposed it in an email a couple of weeks ago, the direction that she wanted to go based upon the governor's executive order, and we had all agreed to that. Am I missing something?
No, and I just want to make sure everybody understands something, and I don't want to get into too much detail. I'm going to tell you right now that the 4 days we're talking about, Tuesday the 26th of May, Wednesday the 27th, Thursday the 28th, and Friday the 29th. Give me 5 minutes with Donna and her staff, having been in sales my whole life. Here's the 3 questions that you ask somebody calling in for an appointment, and how much you want to bet they'll be able to avoid appointments and be able to handle it on the phone, just like they're handling it now. Is the assessment department closed right now, or is it just closed to the public coming in the door, Bill?
Right now, they're taking a few calls, but because town hall's closed, people aren't calling in that much.
Okay, and when we say town hall is open to the public, as I've said many times, and it's a pet peeve of mine and one that I'd like to move the needle on, as soon as we go out and blast in the Facebook and all that it's open to the public, 15 to 20% of our households will see that message. So I don't see the phone
No, you're right,
ring
Tom.
off the hook. Pardon?
No, you're right.
I am totally sensitive and empathetic to Donna's situation, and I've been in some meetings, Bill, with Donna in the last couple of weeks on this. If we're trying to describe whether employees should come back to the office on the 18th because Donna's tax roll and all that stuff, it is apples and oranges. Her employees are already there, and she has 4 days to manage at the end of May on people calling in for appointments, and I'd be shocked if her department gets blasted with call-ins for appointments. And if they ask the proper questions, I bet you they can get those people where they get resolution to their issue without coming in. So, I want to move on to the courts, because the courts threw us a curveball in the last 24, 48 hours, all right? I had toured the court facility with Judge Tom and Judge Dave, I think it was Monday, May 4th, or Tuesday, May 5th. I did that when the rules of their higher power were telling them they could not open the doors and let any employees in until June 1st. And I said, that's great. We're getting together a month ahead of time. We walked the facility. We started to figure out, how it would be structured for when the 5 clerks come in so that they are safe, they be safe. And then also we started to lay out the facility for how it would be to have court sessions, which they thought would start as early as June 3rd. COVID-19 is a fluid situation. Yesterday, the higher power for the courts said that as of the 18th, all the clerks can come back to work. And obviously, Judge Tom and Judge Dave, where they're both happy about that, this also caused us to up the ante. We were trying to, gear ourselves for a June 1st with them. Well, now it's the 18th. I don't really think that Steve Peace and IT has set up any of those clerks to work from home because the courts had said they can't work. They can't work on old files. So I had told Judge Dave and Judge Tom that really what we have to do with the courts on the 18th, where the court, the higher power, not us, has said, you go back to work, clerks. Well, just like we couldn't have them work because the higher power said they can't work. So now what's good for the goose is good for the gander. Now they're being told to go back to work. This isn't the town telling them to go back to the work. This is their whatever, the court system or whatever. Now, I think the clerks, the way that office is structured, they can walk in that door almost turnkey and be safe. But I'm going to meet with Tom and Dave tomorrow and just make sure over the weekend that if we have to reconnoiter some things so they come in and it's a different structure because they have 5 cubicles in a row, maybe we just have them at cubicle 1, 3, and 5 and figure out to do with who usually sits at cubicle 2 and 4 to sit at different places in the building. They're not going to be doing court until at least the first week of June, so we still have the same timetable of how, and I won't get into details on this call, of how we're going to set up that 3,500 square foot that is where everybody operated out of when Town Hall was being renovated. We are going to set it up as pseudo conference rooms for probation officers and attorneys. We got a plan, and it'll be good. As far as the public coming in, the court system said the public can start coming in again as of May 18th to pay fines and this and that. I said to Dave and Judge Tom, we need to find out what type of wiggle room you have on that, because we all agree that we would rather have the employees in for a day or two, get them acclimated, before we have the public come in and do it by appointment only. So they're looking into that. That court system they answer to is very rigid. We saw it when they shut them down. Judge Dave tried to appeal to their common sense of having one clerk work. He got slapped down. Now they're coming out, and when you read what they're saying, it's almost as if, okay, they all got to go back to work on the 18th, and you got to open to the public for paying fines. We don't want those things happening on the same day. It doesn't make any sense after 2 months of being in a hole to bring employees back, and on the same day that they're getting acclimated, have them have to deal with the public.
Right.
So, that's what that's all I got. That's what we're trying to do with the courts. If you have any questions or comments, shoot away.
Well, I would agree with that, but from a point of consistency, how do you allow the public into the courts in a certain manner and not allow the public into town hall in the same manner?
We have a different power, higher power that is dictating it.
Well, I understand that. I'm just throwing it out there
Yeah.
for discussion purposes.
Well, I'll tell you what, if they get wiggle room on that from their higher power, then I'll talk to them tomorrow. If they get wiggle room, hey, why don't you not open the to the public until the 26th?
Right. Well, whichever way it goes, I'm just throwing it out there.
Yep. Because then our campus will be consistent on all 3 buildings.
Exactly.
But where we have total authority in many ways of what we do with upstairs at Town Hall and downstairs Police Department, boy, have I found out by getting slapped upside the head that I really am shocked. And I think Judge Corritor, nothing against Judge DeSalvo, but he has really lobbied the court system to do a more common sense approach to this in the last couple months. And he's written some very, very good common sense memos. I've told him that I will back him on these things but they've just shut him down. And we talked about it as far as, swimming upstream against the court system and just saying, hey, we're going to open up against them. And Tom DeSalvo said, Dave, you could get disbarred. You can't do it. And I was like in that meeting, like, well, I don't want to be any party to that. Okay, so we got to find out. I think when they probably they didn't think this through. When they said the clerks can all come back on the 18th, it's not really. It doesn't sound like it's an option like we're talking about with Town Hall. It's like you're coming back on the 18th, and they're giving no relevance to the person's fear level or whatever. It's just you're coming back to work. which does put pressure on us to make sure the facility almost day one is safe.
Right.
But as far as that public coming in, the way that thing is written from the court system, it makes it sound like you will open to the public on the 18th too. And Dave and Tom, no, can you find out? Can we push that off for a couple days? So I'll hopefully tomorrow we'll have an answer on that, because I don't like the thought of, for many reasons, the public coming in, even by appointment only, on May 18th, when that's the first day in 2 months plus that these clerks have been back at work. That's not good.
Well,
Tom,
Yes,
May 18th is Monday.
that's correct.
Okay, so the clerks are gonna come back on Monday.
Yes.
What part of our public is even gonna know that they can come back on Monday?
I couldn't agree with you more. I'm arguing against myself now that even, just because Judge Dorn and the powers that be said it, heck, even if we promoted it to the cows come home, which we won't, only 20% find out. But know this, we get a lot of phone calls in the last 2 months for the courts. So that's where we have a problem, because we can't lie on the phone. We have to know what we can do. We get a lot of calls for the courts.
is that possibly because there's a backlog of court dates that were, not able to be made due to the shutdown?
I don't know.
Is why they may be pressing it, or no?
And it's funny, because right before I came down to the boardroom tonight, I was talking to Clerk Barb Ottenscott, and she, I don't think, is listening to the meeting tonight nor watching it live, but boy, I wish if she was, because I think if she called in, she could explain the genre of calls, what they're about, or even if,
Good point.
I don't know, but I consistently over the last 2 months, as we were reconnoitering, if you might remember, we always have live reception desk, which I love. And then it took us a week, and I blame this on me, that, oh, wow, our MyTel phone system has auto attendant. Why don't we put auto attendant in so that a caller in gets, told, hit this button for this department, hit this button for this department. And everything that I have been told, a lot of calls come into the courts. What they're about, John, I don't know.
Yeah, so I heard on the radio today, they were talking about that they were trying to, that there was such a backlog of court cases, domestic and criminal, that have been put on the back burner because of COVID, and the court systems are about to open up, that, they were talking about that on the radio today, so that's the only reason I brought that subject up, is with respect to the phone calls to the.
Well,
And the court's opening up and saying, okay, you have to be there. Obviously, there's a differentiation between, town hall being open up and, the courts and the directives, which are not consistent and haven't been consistent from day one. So,
yeah.
I don't know.
And John, I will tell you this, and I think, I've enjoyed, that's the right word, the last couple of months with Judge Dave and Tom, working with them, trying to advocate on their behalf, even though I found out that you're going against a brick wall with the court system. They are the higher power. And even when I first got in and I asked, with department head meetings, Tom and Dave educated me on the fact that they are not a department head in the true sense of reporting to the supervisor. They answer to the court system, but from good form and good team playing, they certainly want to be involved. But this situation in the last 2 months has shown me unequivocally that, man, the court system and what Judge Tom and Judge Dave and the clerks, who we pay, by the way, it's a town,
Right.
we have no say in how things are done. It's quite eye-opening, to be
Yeah.
honest with you.
Right.
So, sorry for the
Quite
buzz.
the education.
If you don't mind, can we move on to what I think are relatively low-hanging fruit facilities in the form of the
Sure.
sewer department, sewer plant, and the highway department?
Sure, go ahead.
I think there is, the highway is pretty much locked down now, except because they brought back to full staff on May 4th. And Joe Herb seems to have them on the split shifts in the two buildings and social distancing and all that. The only caveat is they have not opened to the public. I don't think it's a big deal. We probably could have consistency with them too on the 26th, even though it's not the same campus. But as Joe has told me, he goes, on average, 1 or 2 people in normal times stop in at the highway department, so it's not a real big deal as far as opening to the public. So I guess I'd just circle back with Joe, and why not? If we could get every place to be consistent on Tuesday the 26th, it would make life a lot easier.
I agree.
Yes, right. Well, and I stated it, yes.
And sewer, Patty, I know we got Art, and we've been doing so much with Art on so many other things, because his full staff comes back the 18th, and they know that.
Do they, I'm not sure, do they know that?
Oh, for goodness gracious sakes, I hope they do, because when we decided,
I'm not so sure.
yeah,
I'm not so sure, Tom. They're working half and half.
that's
Eddie,
interesting.
I'm pretty sure Art knew they were supposed to be coming back on the 18th.
Okay.
Patty, but you could be right. It could have just been missed in communication. I mean, when we decided to go,
I'm not. I will find out from him as soon as I get off this call. I don't want to assume that.
yeah, because I got to be honest with you. I know when I'm getting some kickback here on the phone. When we decided 2 or 3 weeks ago to bring highway back May 4th to full staff, but wait until May 18th, until after the pause is over, assuming the pause was over, which it is, at least for Finger Lakes, the sewer department was coming back to full staff tentatively on May 18th. I can't.
Okay, I could have missed.
But I could have missed it, Patty. I can't put my hand on a stack of Bibles and say for certain that has conveyed through. I certainly haven't communicated it to the 15, 16 sewer department employees. I would assume Art has. He's good at that.
I will check with him.
Yeah. I'm assuming they know they're coming back. And, Art also, I think, has a pretty good handle on how to have the facility be safe. It's almost oxymoronic having a clean sewer plant, but it is. I mean, where they were, he's got them, split between the collection being off-site, and their, masks and social distancing and all that, and wiping down trucks. So, I just think highway and sewer, Joe and Art have been handling their facilities from day one, and I don't think there's a seismic shift. I don't think a lot of people from the public come in to the sewer department. From what Joe has told me is one administrative person, Denise, she's set up working at home, and he said she's cranking work from home. So I have no, if she doesn't want to come back into the office on the 18th, I don't want to speak for Joe or Art, but I don't think that's a big deal.
Okay, I know he did specifically ask me that, so I will relay that to him.
Patty, I thought Art and I had that off the record conversation just in the last couple weeks. How is Denise doing at home? And he said she's loving it and she's getting a lot done. But great. Can we move on from the highway garage and sewer plant?
Move on.
I'm fine with it.
Okay. Bill, I know, and I'm glad you mentioned it in an email about the library. Even though they had a very robust plan, they had no dates. I don't know if you saw my email earlier that the reason they don't have any dates right now is they have a higher power too. I don't know what the association or educational system or association of libraries is basically going to tell them how they can open and curbside. That's been pretty consistent on my supervisor calls when we talk about the facility of the library. They basically have said, well, I don't know what the library powers that be are thinking of doing as far as opening. If everybody got a chance to read Terry Bennett and the library board's robust plan, it's certainly inside the facility. I think they have a very good plan. I did tour it with her on Monday with Paul Adams, and I said that I really think they need to. Well, I don't know how you do appointment only for the library. I know they're thinking curbside would be the first stage for them.
Yeah, you're right.
But I did tell her that
It's going to be a while before people are allowed to go inside the library from the Zoom conversation we had with the board last night.
Oh, John, then you know what? I'll shut up. You had a meeting last night. Why don't you report on the library? Sorry about that.
Well, that's pretty much it, because the stage 5 for Terry was vaccine, and so I questioned that last night during the conversation, because everything that was outlined didn't identify people coming inside. And when I saw stage 5 vaccine, and I know that we've heard and read on the news, all of us, it could be anywhere from a year to 18 months before a vaccine. So my question to Terry was, so when you say vaccine at stage 5, does that mean you're going to wait until there's a vaccine before you're going to allow people in? And, her response was, no, I just put that out there that, we don't really have a plan yet as far as a date goes to allow people to come into the library, but, they're going to continue on as far as, book drop-offs and those sorts of things goes, and, the video things that they've been doing to date. So, yeah, there's no concrete date as to when the library is going to actually open up to the public yet. That'll be forthcoming.
I'm sorry, John, is that up to Terry, or will that be dictated by the greater power that oversees the library?
My interpretation from the conversation last night was it'll be up to Terry. Which was why I was, asking her, kind of directly, you put vaccine up there, when's the library going to, open up to the public? And she had no answer to that currently.
Well, and this is don't think this is a tangent, what I'm about to say, and I hope the board knows that John and I have been in several meetings with Terry and Tony Hubbard from the library board in the last couple of months. And you know, it's obvious that they're a unique department, unique facility. We give them money in the budget, but then they can do what they want to do. And I think it falls, that right there, they can do what they want to do, if that's the best way to put it. I really don't know how much authority, if at all, we have over when they enact those things, as such as opening and all that.
We don't. We have none.
Yeah.
So
Now,
it's up to Terry and the board to decide when they're going to open up to the public. I know that they have gotten a few calls from the public, just asking them, please, when are you going to open up? They're very anxious. People are happy that they're going to be doing the book drop-offs and pickups and the whole 9 yards. But the people that support the library and that attend the library on a regular basis are really, really hoping that they will open up soon. So I don't know what impetus that will have on Terry and the board to open up to the public, but I know she's working with Joe Herbst to set up some, safe stations and put up some plexiglass. So they're getting ready to, but with respect to, allowing the public to come in, that has not been established yet.
it was interesting touring the facility with her and Paul Adams is, the thing is massive, as you probably know.
Yes.
So by definition, it's so big that when they do let the public in, I kept saying to Terry, this place is built for public distancing. I mean, she
Right.
says that there's 360,000 people that come in the library a year, so that's about 100 a day, right?
Right.
It's an exaggeration to make a point. You could put 100 people in that place at the same time, and you could spread them out to the point where it would seem empty. It's my guess.
Yeah. I mean, there's ample opportunity to make it safe for the public to come in, and I know that they're working on that, and they're working with Joe because apparently Joe got some plexiglass. I believe it was from Irondequoit.
Yes.
He's going to get some plexiglass that they had extra that they're going to give to Joe, and Joe's going to work with Terry to set it up as far as the different desks go to keep people safe.
Yep.
So, they're working on it. The plan is not done yet, but they're working on it. So hopefully they'll open up to the public sooner than later because there's a lot of people that love to go to the library and are very, very anxious to get back in.
Yeah.
So I know that they're working on it.
Two things on that. One, when we did tour it, I said, if you thought, Terry, as you get into the summer months, can you do some outside activities? Because I get the feeling that everybody thinks that outside, especially it seems safer than being inside. I guess
Well,
that's
that's already been established.
yeah. And
From
then
a
the other.
medical standpoint, yes.
You just made my night, John, because Supervisor Seeley in Irondequoit said on a call with the supervisors a few weeks ago that some project they did a couple years ago ended up having just a ton of extra plexiglass, if any of you guys want some. Well, I reached out to him and said,
Right.
you know what, I'd love some of that plexiglass because I don't know if Bill or Barry or Patty or yourself, John, have seen what these prefab, when you buy it from a distributor or from Target or from Staples, what a plexiglass barrier costs. You know how much these things cost?
It's amazingly expensive.
Yes!
I can't even tell you how many windows I've had to put.
Well, you would know, and I was
It's
like,
ridiculous how expensive it is.
I was like, I'll take that free plexiglass and have our talented people in parks or highway, manufacture some things for us. And I did not realize that it had, that Joe had gotten the stuff. So that's great, because I'm going to follow up on that tomorrow. I want to see how much he got. Free's a good price.
That's my favorite 4 letters.
Yeah, I was shocked, I guess.
That's what everybody who got masks thought this weekend.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
Just saying, free's
Yeah.
a good price.
Well, that's coming from the woman who was given masks that had some snow on them and was told that they were wet.
Say nothing of the icicles that were hanging off my hair.
I shouldn't say that. The audacity of someone
Patty,
to say that to you,
I
Betty.
knew you wanted to get into hunting, Patty. Now you've been indoctrinated.
She looked like Frosty the
It
Snowman.
wasn't the first time, John.
Really? I didn't know that.
Hey, I'll leave you with this as far as the library goes.
Let's stick to the agenda.
Yeah, because the library, and John, in layman terms, and I don't want to. If anything, my gut tells me that the library would be more prone to open up slower than faster. The good news is
It seems that way, yes.
is that I think our relationship with them over the last few months on other projects we're doing, I gotta say that Tony and Terry their actions have honored our wishes, even though we have no authority over them. Just take a look at what
Well,
they,
to that point, Tom, part of the discussion last night on the Zoom meeting was their long-range planning, and they're going to be scheduling, well, they did last night, schedule the first meeting of their long-range planning, and one of the things we talked about was the CAM charges and the rent with respect to, comparing that to possibly, years down the road, having an asset with respect to a building, where it is, attached to maybe the camp store at the recreation department. But the discussion surrounded around, okay, we're spending millions of dollars on rent versus, okay, something that's an asset. So that will be taking into consideration as far as where they're going with respect to long-range planning, which I think is the smart move to at least have that discussion.
yeah. Well, I hope I'm not overselling it.
Even though we're still locked into it, we still have 13 years on the lease.
Yeah.
But let's at least start that discussion.
Yeah. Well, gang, is it my imagination? Are we down to the rec center and I guess the parks garage? But is that, well, in Karen's Spectrum building, I will say that Karen has reported back to me that she's got it under control. And I think since she's the sole person in there, are we good with that? Did I lose?
That shouldn't require any discussion at all.
I didn't think so. I don't want her coming out the door at me.
I would agree with that.
Yep. So am I missing anything facility-wise? Are we down to the rec center and then down the street, the 1,500 square foot parks garage, I guess, where some people are? Is that? I think these are the last facilities, right?
Well, rec center would be in line with the gym, and that's phase 4 of the state plan.
Well, if you guys don't mind, I'm going to read what Chris Bilo sent me as an email. It's pretty short. And Chris and I have talked about this. He's got a challenge because the rec center, as we know, is not solely a gym. It has other activities going on in there that he could open to the public before the gym opens, but that's that's a sticky wicket. So this is what he wrote up tentatively. Recreation staff. Monday, May 18th, have all full-time staff back to work utilizing hours of 8 to 5 for most staff. Staff can properly maintain 6 foot or wear a mask while working in facility each day. The facility is cleaned and disinfected. They are very good about that. Allow for open for office business. Monday to Friday from 9 to 5 would require having one person in the office handling any walk-up individuals. Walk-up individuals. The office person would work from the main office area, keeping the window partition closed while conducting business. If necessary, we would mark 6-foot markers on the floor to keep residents distance from each other. I'm going to stop now. That's what he's got for the rec staff. I need to talk to him about what would be the reason that a person from the public would need to come into the facility right now. I can't think of one.
Yeah, that was my question. I can give you a couple guesses.
Please do.
They're signing their kids up for camps and stuff in the summer, and also paying their fees for the use of the gym.
Yeah.
Weight room.
So can I
At this
interject for a
point,
moment?
I can't see any reason for anybody to coming in that there isn't anything that he can't do online.
Well, I was just going to say, why can't they call in?
Can we back up for 1 minute, please?
Yes, I
Have
am.
we gotten any indication whether summer camps can be a go or not?
No.
Well, on the supervisor call, we've had Dr. Mendoza on with us, and he has indicated that we can start our rec departments planning those things, and in fact, 4 of the town's Parks and Rec commissioners or whatever are a task force with Dr. Mendoza on how to do that. He definitely has, he's intimated on those calls that it's not out of the imagination that if most of those summer programs start after the usual school year ends, which, is into late June, into July, I think they're going to happen. And I think that task force is, obviously, gang, when I say this is going to happen, we all do know that if phase 1 in 10 days, we open manufacturing and construction and all that, and all of a sudden in the anything else that opens in phase 1, if the numbers spike, we're going to be going right back to square one. So this is all predicated on the fact that these phases go through over 2-week periods, and that we get to July 1st where, the curve of the KPIs, as far as I'm concerned, the key performance indicators of COVID, I don't want to, and they said it last night that, okay, we had the most COVID cases confirmed yesterday since this began. But you know what that means? We're also doing the most testing since this began.
Exactly.
The key indicators are hospitalizations, the IC units, and obviously deaths. So they've already said that on these calls, and I'm getting kickback here on the phone. They understand that as more testing is done, that we will have confirmed cases go up. But a lot of that's, if we still stay in that 3% range of, cases to test, we're going to be good, and we'll go through these phases and slowly open up to some semblance of normalcy. So, to me, the way Dr. Mendoza has discussed this with the supervisors and forming this task force and whatever, reading the tea leaves, I think he feels pretty strongly that going into July that it's worth us planning these summer camps and all that stuff, but they're going to just figure out how to do it in a way that is still COVID-19 friendly in July.
Okay, so that sounds good. You know, the other thing we might do is encourage people to sign up for things online when possible.
Yeah. And by the way, Bill, you're probably exactly correct about why somebody would want to go in to the rec center, but I'm going to talk to Chris about let's try to get the consistent for May 26th also, because with the rest of the town's facilities open to the public and by appointment and all that, because one of the reasons you said is to go pay their gym bill. You do know that we have not been charging those people for the last 2 months, and that's a loss of revenue to the town of almost $20,000 a month, about actually around $18,000.
Yeah, I realize that. We're just going to have to make a decision when you're going to start charging.
Well, the logical time
Probably can't charge until people are allowed to
when you
come
open
in,
it. And I got to tell you something. I think it was the right move to not charge them. I think it's the 20th of the month they get charged, and it's for the month coming up. And Chris reported in our budget meeting to Paul, and I think Barry, you were on that too, that he didn't charge the March 20th. He didn't charge the April 20th, and certainly I don't think he's planning on charging the May 20th. Whether you would charge the June 20th and you think that we're going to be to the point where we open a gym June 20th and going forward, I doubt it. And so I think we're looking at 4 months lost of gym revenue, which is about
70,000.
yeah, something like that. Added to the bill of lost revenue.
Of lost revenue.
I'm getting a kickback on the phone. But I'm still getting a kickback on the phone. And I can hear Karen laughing in the control room. What's that? Okay. Personally, somebody's got to move their phone. Echoing crazy. Yeah, I'm still echoing. So.
Rinky dink.